Hi everyone. In this video I'm going to just provide a little context. You might not have had a philosophy course before. This is a logic course, so it's technically philosophy, but we're going to be reading a lot of stuff that's pretty difficult, and I would encourage you to slow down. And so I'm going to basically just take you through. So for this discussion, you're going to read books 2 and 3 of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. I found this this translation online. It's a little complex. I have another one here. It's just the Penguin Classics version, a little bit more accessible. But I love this, the way book 2 starts. Now, I skipped book 1. Book 1 is really good. I like it. Basically, Aurelius, who, by the way, lived in the 100s AD, he basically starts the book by talking about everything he's learned from different people. And I love it because it shows, it's kind of like this initial beginning of gratitude. And I love that. Like, and we see this later in like medieval philosophy, where almost every theological, philosophical treatise starts out with like a celebration of God, gratitude toward God, about the fact that we are intellectual beings and that we can come into knowledge of the truth and the beauty and glory of God, of the infinite, the absolute. And so we see this, and I don't know enough about the history of philosophy or this technically to say that that maybe that influence came from the Stoics or from other people. But anyway, you know, it's like, from my grandfather Varus, what I learned, decency and a mild temper. He doesn't say what he learned. This is from book 1. From my mother, piety, generosity. What I learned, piety, generosity, the avoidance of wrongdoing, and even the thought of it. Also simplicity of living, well clear of the habits of the rich. That's cool. His mom taught him to live simply and not to worry about money. That's awesome. My mom taught me that too. And although it's hard to actually learn that. Anyway, I liked book 1 a lot, so check it out if you're interested. But it's just like a list of everything he learned. And book 2 is where he kind of starts to get into the meat of Stoicism, or whatever you want to call this. So anyway, I'm going to read from my translation, but you can read along here. Say to yourself first thing in the morning, today I shall meet people who are meddling, ungrateful, aggressive, treacherous, malicious, and unsocial. So right when you wake up, say, today is going to be a good day. Today I'm going to meet all these treacherous, horrible, ungrateful people. All this has afflicted them through their ignorance of true good and evil. Kind of a Stoic idea. We see this in Plato too, 400 years earlier, 500 years earlier, that the only reason why that evil equates to lack of knowledge and good equates to knowledge of the truth. And so the only reason why they're this way is just because they don't really understand, is what Aurelius is saying. But I've seen that the nature of good is what is right, which we just said, and the nature of evil is what is wrong, or what is true and what is untrue or false. And I've reflected that the nature of the offender himself is akin to my own, not a kinship of blood or seed, but a sharing of the same mind, the same fragment of divinity. Beautiful statement. So what we see in Aurelius, and we also see this in Seneca and some other Stoics, is we are connected on earth, all of us, and we are not connected through blood or by birth, seed, but we are connected because we share the same mind. So we are emanations of the divine. We are like the absolute. Like, this is what we see in Hegel, right? Like, everything is a manifestation of the absolute. This water bottle is a portion of God. I am a portion of God. You are a portion of God. Everything is a portion of God. And in existing, God naturally just brings out the emanation of the entire universe, of all the possible worlds, all the possible universes. Maybe there's a trillion universes that exist. But we're all part of that. Now, there are some ethical issues that arise, right? Like, if everything is a manifestation of God, then child molestation, rape, murder, like all of those horrible things are a manifestation of God. And then the people who do those things are part of God. So then we need to like think about what God is, because that's pretty scary too. Okay, but anyway, we are all the same fragment of divinity. Therefore, I cannot be harmed by any of them, as none will infect me with their wrong. Nor can I be angry with them or hate them. We were born for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids, like the rows of upper and lower teeth. So to work in opposition to one another is against nature, and anger or rejection is opposition. All right, so I can't be harmed by any of these ungrateful, aggressive bastards that I meet every day. And by the way, I'm an ungrateful, treacherous, malicious, unsocial bastard as well, and they think that about me. But the thing about it is, I can't be harmed because I'm not going to be angry at them, because they can't infect me with their untruth, because I'm going to like live in the truth. And the truth is that they're a manifestation of the divine, and thus they must be respected. They must be cared for. And in fact, we have to cooperate. It's natural for humans to cooperate. Now, some of you might be thinking, human nature, that doesn't exist, or there's no natural law or whatever. Well, look around, because all day long, all humans are doing 98% of the time is cooperating. And you might say, well, there's war, you know, and there are people that rob other people. Yes, there are 2% of the time, maybe 1/100% of the time, because in general, you like say, hey, thanks for the sandwich that I just bought from you. Nobody's harming each other. Hundreds of thousands of transactions, people agreeing to trade resources, being happy. That sandwich was delicious. Cool. I really like that they make good sandwiches. They're like, I like that that guy comes in and gives me money for my sandwiches. And by the way, we like exchange pleasantries, and there's soccer on the TV. Oh, wow, it's really fun to watch soccer. And they're really good at what they do. And it's really nice to see humans doing things that they're really good at doing, because it makes me want to do what I can do at the best level that I can do it. And so like all the time, there's all this cooperation, there's all this positivity. And yes, then there's one murder, and then there's one person who violates children. And then but in general, and for the most part, we all work together. And that's the reason why we've been able to exist over evolutionary time, because we cooperate so well. It's pretty amazing. If you look at nature, how many examples are there where there's like 5,000 members of the species just hanging out and nothing bad is happening, like in an airport, right? Like everybody's just chilling. Like it's kind of fun to look at people like, oh, they're buying a sandwich right now, or they're buying a Gatorade. That's weird. You know, like this person sitting across from me is like talking to somebody that they care about. Like we're all just chilling, and like nobody's attacking each other. Nobody's like violating each other, and we're just chilling. And like that doesn't happen. We're really good at cooperation. And so when we oppose each other, it's against our natures. And anger and rejection is opposition. And so what he's saying there at the end is, I'm not going to be angry, and I'm not going to reject, because that's opposition to the divine. So what I need to do is I need to be loving, and I need to accept what the world has given me. And I'll end there just with the, because that's what Stoicism is all about, right? It is about accepting what comes to us, and figuring out how to survive in a world that does sometimes seek to undo us or to violate us. And so how can we say yes to these things and not wish that things were different? And I think, and the reason why I'm giving you this reading is because I think that this aligns really well with the practical logic and the critical thinking that we're trying to learn in this class. You can feel free to totally disagree with me, and you can say like, no, our role is to change the world. But in a certain sense, changing the world is accepting it too, especially when you change it for the better. But there's something about solid thinkers that when bad things happen in their lives, they're able to react, respond, and to create better outcomes than what happened. And in some people's lives, when bad things happen, even more chaos spirals out of control, or the things that happen to them drive them to create more chaos in the lives of other people. And we see this a lot, right? Like two brothers born to the same family, abusive family. One ends up becoming a monster, the other actually ends up being a great contributor to society and a loving father to his own children, even in spite of the fact that he had such a horrible experience as a child. Now, I'm not blaming the person that becomes a monster. Maybe I'm not blaming them. But Stoicism, I think, for its leaders and practitioners would be, there's no way that I'm going to become a monster. And here's my handbook for how not to become a monster, even when the world is unfair and it has violated me in all these different ways. Okay, so the other thing I've done here is given you an example of how we should be thinking about the text that we're reading. So if you're just blasting through it, I would encourage you to slow down. I'd much rather have you read 3 or 4 pages deeply to find your nuggets that connect with you or that you totally disagree with, and then to just go into that space. So slow down, think about it sentence by sentence, try to apply it to your life, and think about how we ought to be thinking as critical thinkers in relation to these things.